Ra Gita
We have been talking about the rituals now, why our mind is not concentrated, why we run around like children, and why we don't find peace in this life. Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschitaha vedavadarataha partha anyat iti vadinaha कामात्मान स्वर्गपरा जन्म कर्म फलप्रदाम क्रिया विशेष बहुलाम भोगै ऐश्वर्य गतिम प्रति भोगै ऐश्वर्य प्रसक्तानां तया अपरत चेतसाम व्यवसायित्मिका बुद्धि समाधौ न विधीयते. Sloks 42 to 44 are the first time that Vyasji has brought out an important subject matter in which he rejects, like the Vedanta, the rituals which the Upanishad has also rejected from the Vedas. As we had talked earlier, the Vedas consist of two major parts. One is of the rituals, which is 90 to 95% of the substance of those large volumes of books consists only of rituals, and only a small portion consists of real knowledge, which is Upanishad and Gita. We are now talking about those 95% of the rituals that people go through. The ignorant people, these three slokas says, the ignorant people, that is persons who are learned and yet devoid of knowledge, utter flowery speech which is attractive, on which blossom new flowers every day. Men who wrangle over the meaning of the Vedas, men filled with endless desires, men who have many wishes and teach others to be like them, men who are ever thinking of heaven, which are merely for enjoyments, who always talk of enjoying even this world thoroughly, and paint glowing and attractive pictures of life in the heaven, and assert that there is nothing beyond heaven, and persuade people to perform innumerable rituals to secure enjoyments and win greatness, name and fame, and there are people like that even today. These ignorant people and gurus advise us to propitiate a great number of gods and so make us feel helpless, who induce us to offer fanciful prayers to imaginary gods and turn us away from prayer to the real God, the God of all gods. Such men push us deeper and deeper into the field of Maya or ignorance. We find this today as we examine. If you were to pick up any typical newspaper, you will see the advertisement like products selling their goods. All these dharma gurus who are after the rituals and money, you will see that they are here as if to sell God, as if God was a property or entity to be sold. They run after money. They find the disciples who have money. They wouldn't go in villages where poor people because there is no money. I know incidents where they refuse to go to give talks on Gita among the poor, but they run after the rich who may be in Africa or America, and these ritualistic people are always after money and name and fame. This is what these three slokas are telling us, that they induce us towards the wrong direction. We don't need this. This is almost inlaid in the worldly people anyway, and we try to induce them into more passions and desires which are momentary. Then we don't advance, and we again keep suffering, and we go into the cycle of birth, growth, decay, and death, as Gita says. So, by saying these three slokas, Vyasji or Sri Krishna Bhagavan is reminding us that we have come out of the Vedas or the rituals. This particular scripture is strictly for self-realization, and this cannot be achieved unless we come out of the rituals. Otherwise, we'll be going in circles round and round. I think that we have Mirabai had seen in her days also that these ritualistic people are running around, and she is telling them, Hare Hari Vase Hari Na Janma Tame Shu Karsho Jai Vanma. In other words, there are so much pretentious dharma gurus running around, not knowing that Lord is always residing in the heart of the devotees. But these people run around in the forest, pretend to be the Vairagis, and they just don't understand. They go and take baths in the Ganges. They go to the Kashi, but he says, what will you achieve there? Even the fish is also taking bath in the same Ganges, but they still remain fish. And if it is vegetarian, then the monkeys are also vegetarian. So, but they don't realize God just by being vegetarian. So she says, Lord is not neither in water nor in wind. No matter how much havans you may perform, the yagyas, that God is not in those things. These rituals that I even see in one of the cities in Gujarat, a lot of rich people get together, spend money, and these gurus make money while the poor people are outside the wall where they are waiting to find some food to eat, while here they waste a lot of money and ghee and other things. Not only they spoil the air, but we wonder what they achieve, except they pamper each other, feeling that they have done some service to God. So this has been happening all the time in the past, and that is why the scriptures are very clear about it, that running after the desires of the flesh certainly will keep us miserable, and we want to go beyond this. So Sri Krishna Bhagavan then says, also these three slokas, as I have often said, have come from what I call the mother of Gita. Just like Meera is my mother and she is telling us all these things. Same way, Katha Upanishad has a beautiful two slokas about this I want to mention again. Avidyayam antare vartamanaha swayam dhira panditam manyamanaha dandamyamana pariyanti muda andhena eva niyamana yathandha. These foolish dharma gurus dwelling in the very midst of ignorance, yet vainly fancying themselves to be wise and learned, go round and round, staggering to and fro like blind men leading the blind. So here then the scripture says these blinds can only lead us to blind, and they cannot help us to come out of this illusion of rituals. Rituals is like false work, and we have to come out of it, as we have said before. It may be all right in our when we are children, but we certainly, as we grow up, we have to come out of these rituals and move on to the real spirituality, which is our real nature. So the next slok then, slok number 45, it says, and it sums up very well, Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarun Nirdvando Nitya Sattvasta Niryoga Kshayam Atmavan. So in this it says that the subject of the Vedas or the ritualistic portion of the Vedas is in the domain of the three gunas, that is tamas, rajas and sattva, as we have said before. In other words, it is in the field of maya or ignorance. So these Vedas speak of only those things and we never come out of it. But here, Arjun, you better come out nishtre gunyaha. You must go beyond the three gunas, even the sattvic. In other words, you must go nirdvando, beyond dualities, beyond good and evil, beyond winning and losing, as we have said, the duality, and establish yourself nitya sattvastha. Establish yourself constantly in sattva, that is in love, that is in Atman, that is in peace within your heart. So constantly establish yourself in that niryogakshema atmavan, and do not waste your time or life in running around collecting money and then anxiety to hold on to it. All this thing is wasting time. You just get along with what is minimum required. Do not waste your time like other people in gathering things in this life and holding on to it, because life goes on, and this thing will not be coming with you or of much help in spirituality. Really, you should be Atmavan, just like I would say Miravan or Atmavan means one who has realized Atman or one who has realized God or love. That is what he wants. We should all become Atmavan. Sometimes we say Bhagwan, sometimes we say Dhanvan, Roopvan. In other words, all of us want to be beautiful or we want to be rich. But Lord here says the best thing is Atmavan, means that is your real wealth, that is what you really are, and that is eternal. So this slok then tells us to go beyond the Maya, beyond this world in which we have come and going through the dualities. I think we should not be wasting time as we, like children. Again, Mirabai says, Bala pan sab khel gavayo, tarun bhayo tab roop gana, वृद्ध भयो तब आलस उपजो माया मोह भयो magna. In the childhood, you spend your time in playing. When you became young, you were too proud of your beauty and running around with arrogance because of your youth. And when you became old, you became lazy because now you cannot move about. And thus, all your life, you were more absorbed in Maya, ignorance, and illusion. Life goes on and on. We waste time from childhood until the end without really achieving anything. So that is what here Lord says, don't waste your life within the field of these three gunas or Maya. We must try to move on. Now those who have realized God, now how do they look at it? Yavan, this slok number 46, Yavan artha udapane sarvatah samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanatah. Once we have known Brahman, once we have realized our real self or Atmavan, then we would have no use for all the Vedas. In other words, if we have water all around us, then we would not be going for water in a well or a small hole, because we have water like an ocean all around us. Same way, when we realize God inside and outside, then we would not be running around in temples and places, those small places where we really don't get the knowledge anyway. So we would have no use for these rituals, we would have no use for the temples and these places where we are wandering, because now we see God all around, starting from within us. So once a person has known Brahman, he has no use for rituals. If we have rituals, then we have not yet known Brahman. This is the beautiful slok that tells us that once we realize God, we would be at peace. If we find that we are happy where we are, as we say, stay put, then we know that we are very close to God, because God is within us. But if we have to run around in the name of pilgrimage and all these things, then we are still running like ritualistic. We often go just to see place, show to the world that we are religious, Lot of the time we are mostly making religion and these rituals as a social event, and in social events we try to fulfill our passions and our desires. So sometimes I wish that in such meeting we should not have all these large dinners and gatherings, because the mind of the people are always in dinners or looking at people, what they are wearing or what their children or what car they have come in. Their mind is always into these rituals and pride and comparison about each other. So when we go to temple or ashram or some place we gather, we certainly should keep it so simple that our mind is not distracted into any other activity or food or anything else, but we go simply and sit down and meditate or listen to the message. Somehow try to keep our mind concentrated, because it is very easy to be distracted. We are already distracted, and then we make more fuss about the social call, protocol as we say, and we spend more time in that than the object of listening and meditating on the message. So this slok then tells us that those who have really realized God, for them God is everywhere. So they don't need to run around. They won't go to all these rituals and small holes for water when water is already all around. Now the next slok is one of the most important slok, I would say, key slok in the talking about karma yoga, or the actions that we are going to perform in life and how the actions lead us to realization. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phaletuhu bhurmate sango astu karmane. Lord says that you have a right only to perform actions and never to the fruits. Try to keep your mind established in performing your actions as efficiently as possible. And if your mind is in results, then your mind is not in the action itself that you are performing. The mind can be only at one place, and today we are always thinking about what am I going to gain if I do this particular job. We are always calculating the money we are getting, how much I can make more, and calculating our past money and future. So naturally that tells us that our mind is not really in the karma or our duties, even on the job. Even when we cook, our mind is that if somebody will eat it and they will praise us for our cooking. So again there our mind went out of the cooking into a desire that if I do a good job, people will praise me. That is also a fruit. I think that we should also almost perform everything as if we are pleasing God, and if we pay attention and do it with an expertise, that itself is a praise, and God is already watching, and I think He is praising you when you do anything more efficiently with a total concentration, thinking about nothing else. This way we will be performing all our actions more perfect. It will take less energy, less time, and we will have more time to enjoy life also. So it says, your life or your right is to work in this world. Now that you have come, you must work, you must serve, you have the duties. Ma karma phala hetu hu bhurma. Don't have the fruits of action as your objective, nor you should try to be inactive. In other words, if you think that, well, I don't get the result, so why should I work? Then Bhagavan says, no. You should also not think that if you are not going to get the results of the fruits, paycheck, then you will not work. If you work well, there is always a paycheck built in. God, of course, always gives us a good result when we concentrate on the work. The reason why we say don't keep your attention on the fruits is because you are messing up the karma, you are not concentrating. If the karma is not perfectly performed, the company will fail too, and your result will also fail. In other words, you won't have paycheck if the company fails because you did not perform the job right. So there is a very subtle hidden message that if you really work good and concentration, it has a built-in result which will be more satisfactory than the way we are doing now. So this is a very good slok. It tells us that we must concentrate on our duties. In our worldly things, we are always looking at results, and we are only thinking how people will praise us or how they will appreciate. But if we have done our job well and if we have pleased God, then whether people appreciate or not, I think it is not our duty, because people have different thoughts, different aspirations, different views about us, and they may give their opinion the way they like it. I think that we should go beyond opinions and look at the actual works that we do and let the works speak about it rather than the opinions. Whether it is our opinion or somebody else's does not really matter. So this then is a key slope, that we must work with full concentration, not keep ourselves engaged all the time in the results and calculation. If you see the entire stock market or the corporations are always calculating how they can make more money and competition, and many a time we notice that some of them even fail because their object is more into their energy is spent more into the results rather than actually performing. And those who really perform are always way ahead of others. It is inevitable. So I think that this is a extremely good slope, and we want to remember that we must work with a dedication, with sacrifice, just like mother will be working for the child or looking after the child. We mostly in this world always have some expectations. We never make a move without some hopes, and that is what is keeping us as a slave of this karma itself. We don't advance when we get the results, when we concentrate only on the result. But if we go on working and let God give us the results, then we will be advancing towards spirituality. So Lord says, then how should you perform your karmas? Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddha siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. First time he is defining what yoga is, what karma yoga brings us. He says, first of all, you establish in yoga, means keep God in mind, your yoga or your connection with God. That is your goal, that I am trying to please God. Everything we do, keep in mind, whatever I am doing or thinking, is it pleasing to God? And there are ways in which saints have told us to find out whether it is pleasing to God or not. That is what Gita is teaching us. So keeping that in mind, that I want to attach myself to God or I want to realize God, I will perform the actions, sangam tyaktva dhananjaya, and trying to detach yourself from the fruits but not the karma, and siddhi siddho samo bhutva. Whether you succeed or not succeed, keep it as if it is your success is as good as not success, or if you fail, failure is as good as success, provided you have paid full attention, that I have dedicated myself, I have done the best I can, my mind was there, and I have put all my thought and energy and ability into it, then that is all God expects. The results is what men have made the values. The values of our actions are not made by God, it is made by men. Like if you have more money, you are rich and better than others. If you are more beautiful than others, then you bring more money, then you are superior. All these values are man made. So God overlooks all these things, and He looks at our heart, He looks at our intention, and the performance itself is most important. So if we can keep ourselves balanced, then he says balance itself is yoga. In other words, whether we succeed or whether we fail, we have always succeeded. It is in our control if we will perform actions the way he is telling us to do. That forget or don't keep the results in mind, but keep the good actions or efficient actions in your mind. So samatvam yoga uchyate. Yoga is samatvam or evenness. I think the first time we have been told the definition of yoga. We are talking about karma yoga, and in karma yoga we have been told that whether you succeed or fail, you can never fail if you will do it in this particular manner, what God is teaching us here. Durena hi avaram, slok 49. Durena hi avaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddhau sharanam anvichya krupanaha phalahetavaha. Work is verily far inferior to that performed with the mind undisturbed by the thoughts of results. So, if we do not divert our thoughts towards result, then certainly our performance will be very much acceptable to God, and we must surrender ourselves. Those who have surrendered to the results are really, as Lord here says, are wretched. Actually, the word krupanaha, he has told people who are working for results are the wretched people who are always looking for results rather than working to with dedication to please God, or that it is our duty, that it is a joy to work. These are the signs of a saint. Great people always work because work itself is a joy. To us, work has become a burden. Whether we go to job, whether it is house chores, or whatever we do, we are getting bored very quickly, and that is the reason, because we don't keep God in mind, we don't do it things sincerely, honestly, and we say something, well, we do something else, hypocrisy. So all these things is considered wretched according to this, that keep your mind or focus your mind in Atmavan, as we have said in Slok 45, that you want to become Atmavan means possessing Atman. We are all Atman, we have God within us, but we have forgotten. So instead of trying to be Dhanvan or Rupvan, I think that if you can say Miravan or Atmavan, I think you will be very happy, because that is what you will possess. We become what we think. Whatever constantly we think, that's what we are going to become. Mind is always ruling us, but we can rule the mind by our good actions. We can change our mind by the good actions that, according to Gita, that is telling us here. Buddhi yukta jahati ube sukrute dushkrute tasmat yogaya yujyasva yogaha karmashu kaushalam. So here he says that establish in these discriminative things and give up all, whether it's a good work or bad work. Good and bad is according to the fruits that we are expecting. If we don't expect the fruits, then all karmas are good. There is no bad karma. If we do not expect the results but let God give us what He gives, then we will have yoga. And so Lord says that perform your actions with efficiency. Yoga karmashu kaushalam. Most of us don't perform the karmas as efficiently as we should, or we don't concentrate, or don't listen, and that's why we sometimes have to repeat. Our mind is not where we are supposed to have. Uh, it is one of the greatest curse to human being, that they are unable to concentrate on anything they do. So here then Lord says, Yoga karmashu kaushalam. Yoga means efficiently performing your duties, paying full attention, irrespective of people appreciating or not, because what counts is whether God appreciates or not. And God is always watching. He knows, He is sitting in your heart, He knows your intention, your performance, and that is good enough. But if we count on 200 people, they are all selfish, and they look at everything according to their own advantage. That is why we fail. So this is a very good slok, that we must prepare ourselves to please God. These laws of karma that we are talking about are very important. I think that we should meditate. Dedication of our karma, performing our duties, whether we are mother, wife, or whether you are a leader, whatever, or whether it's a religious person, always dedicate your actions to the Lord. And since Lord is in everyone, if you serve everyone, be honest to everyone, then you have really pleased God, and that is our objective. कर्मजं बुद्धियुक्ताय फलं त्यक्त्वा मनीषिणः जन्मबन्ध विनिर्मुक्ता padam गच्छन्ति अनामयम्. He says, if we are wise, and if the results, results born of the karmas, we must try to avoid. It says, phalam tyaktva manishinaha. We must constantly, we are reminded that the wise people abandon the fruits of actions. They have the wisdom, they know what is right and wrong, and thus they become free from the bondage of birth, growth, decay, and death. And then they reach a place what is called a Vaikuntha, from which we don't have to return. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.